And I think I'm live. Hey everyone, my name is Mohi. Some of you guys might have met me before, maybe not. That's completely fine. So I'll be hosting today's session, and we're not going to have someone to assist in the chat today, so I might be a bit slower than usual when assisting you. However, any questions, pop it in the chat box and I'll reply as soon as possible. So I'm just going to type that up for you guys. So I hope everyone's well today and keeping themselves safe and busy and active during these difficult times. So I'm going to give everyone a few minutes to sign in and adjust themselves, and I'll officially start our session at 5 past 5. So give it another 3 minutes and I shall begin. Just give everyone another 2 minutes, guys, and then we shall begin. Right, so I'm going to start the session soon. I hope everyone is ready. Feel free to bring a pen or take any notes, or if you're using your computer, a Word document to make notes, that's completely fine. Whatever's easiest or best for you. Remember, guys, at any point, if nothing makes sense, or I'm going too quickly, or you just want some more explanations, note it down in the chat box and I shall reply as soon as possible. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at intensifiers, highlighted in the red here. They are also adverbs, so that's one way of thinking about them too, but they are a special kind of adverb, and this is going to be very, very relevant to your conversations in everyday life, so that's going to become more obvious as we proceed. So here's a dictionary definition. So an intensifier is a modifier. So when we say modifier, we just mean something that adds extra meaning to another word. So that makes no contribution to the main meaning. That's one way of thinking about it. So an intensifier doesn't change the main meaning, but it adds some extra information so of a sentence and gives additional emotional context to the word it modifies. So the idea of emotional context is very interesting here, and that's going to be more apparent soon. So here we have four sentences. So you'll notice there's a blank line here because we are going to fill these in later on. So right now we have it's a blank, interesting story. I mean, we could just say it's an interesting story and leave it at that, but we want to add an intensifier here to make the sentence more interesting, but also make it give it more meaning, or not meaning so much. We want to enhance it. We want to make it better and add more emotional context to it. Same here. Everyone was excited. We could just leave it at that, but we are going to add another word here. Same with this, and finally, everyone was excited. So this sentence is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but we can add an intensifier in the middle. So proceeding onward now. So we're initially going to look at four different categories. So here is a list of intensifiers and modifiers. So let's look about roles in the family. So we have a sentence here. Some people are absolutely convinced that a child should have a mother and father. Okay, so let's break that. And actually, I realize the text is a bit small, guys. Do let me know if the text is too small. I'll slightly increase it. This might actually help. How about we go to house 16? That's again, any problems reading it, do let me know. So let's read the sentence here. I've highlighted the important words in bold. So we have some people are absolutely convinced that a child should have a mother and a father. Okay, so we have a sentence here, and let's look what's going on. So the intensifier in this word, in this sentence, is absolutely. Okay, so I can remove one way of trying to figure out if something is a intensifier or not is try removing it from the sentence. So it's gone now, right? So some people are convinced that a child should have a mother and a father, okay? So the sentence is, the meaning is the same, with or without the intensifier. Let's add the intensifier back. So the meaning is still the same. The meaning of the sentence is not changing. That's the key thing with intensifiers. That's one way of thinking about them. So remember, they're adverbs, they're a special kind of adverb, and they are not essential to the sentence. So what do we mean by the sentence here? So absolutely is changing the word convinced. So when someone is convinced about something, they are very, very sure about something. They think they are right, okay? So some people are absolutely convinced that a child should have a mother and father. One way of thinking about that is some people think that a child should have a mother and a father. Some people are sure a child should have a mother and a father. So those are different sentences I could use to describe the same situation. But what this intensifier here does is absolutely what this word here does. It changes convinced. It makes it more emotional. It makes the convinced look stronger. So they're not just sure, they are very sure. So absolutely um, is kind of like very in a context in this way. But we're using the word absolutely because you're completely sure. Completely is another word we could use here. We could say completely convinced if we wanted to. Okay, so let us go on to communication. So you might use adjectives when you're communicating in general, not outside the family. So you could say people are increasingly uncomfortable about speaking to each other face to face. Okay, again, this is our intensifier, increasingly. We can remove it, and our meaning would fundamentally be the same. People are uncomfortable about speaking to each other face to face. However, if we add the word increasingly, it modifies the word uncomfortable. Okay? So remember, uncomfortable is not the intensifier is increasingly. Next up, we can go to, actually, I'll just stick with this sentence for a while. I want to elaborate on it a little bit. So what are we saying here? What do you guys think is being communicated? Um, so remember what I said. Pretend this word is not here. Pretend it's gone. So people are uncomfortable about speaking to each other face to face. So what I'm doing now is I'm talking through a device, a laptop, a webcam. So some people would not consider that face to face because I'm not physically in front of them. Face to face, right? This phrase here. Usually when we use this, we mean we're in physical distance to one another. We can see them face to face. Now I know you can see each other through a webcam, and some people you could argue that is also face to face, but I would say in most contexts it's not. When we say face to face, we are usually referring to in person. Okay, uncomfortable, just the opposite of comfortable. So we've added the prefix. The prefix is un. So here, I've highlighted here, this is the prefix, and it has changed comfortable to the opposite. So, so we could move it, and that's comfortable, and then un. So these two letters, u and un, changes the meaning of comfortable completely. It makes it the opposite. That's what prefixes can do. Um, you may So next, we shall look at the school curriculum. So let's read this out. If I hadn't been able to study some fun subjects like art and music, my school days would have been utterly miserable. Okay, so I've given you a clue here. It's in bold. The intensifier is there. It's in bold. So which one is it? Which one is the intensifier? Is it miserable or is it utterly? Have a guess. Well, if you guessed utterly, you were correct. So this is the intensifier. Another way of identifying an intensifier is they sometimes end in ly. You may have learned that most adverbs often end in ly or y, and sometimes intensifiers also do this. So remember, guys, fundamentally, most intensifiers are also adverbs. You can say they're the same thing with a special function. Okay, so going back to our sentence here, if I hadn't been able to study some fun subjects like art and music, my school days would have been utterly miserable. Let's remove the um, utterly here. Okay, so the meaning is the same here. It would have been miserable. So when we say the word miserable, um, usually we think someone who is very sad, their spirits, when we say our spirits are down, we mean that we have a low mood. And when we say we have a low mood, it usually means we are sad. We experience negative emotions. So negative emotions, um, the complete opposite of positive emotions, okay? So miserable is associated with negative emotions. That is one way of thinking about it. Happiness is associated with positive emotions, okay? Miserable, you could say sad, um, depressed, okay? So this is what, when you think of the word miserable, think of sad, depressed, low mood, okay? And remember, guys, happiness, so positive emotions is a broad category. When I say a broad category, I mean that this here does not mean just one word. Positive emotions can mean happy. It can mean you can associate positive emotions with other things aside from just happiness. So I could say competitive. So you can be positive and competitive as well. So what do I mean when I say competitive? So let's say I am playing football, right? And I have tackled another footballer and I have won the ball back. In that moment, I'm very competitive. There might be some aggression there, but because it is helping my team in that particular instance, and I want to beat the other opponent, it's a competitive um, environment, and I could say that is a positive emotion for me. Okay, but happy is the most obvious one. Okay, when we think about positivity. Right, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat box. Okay, hopefully everything is making sense right now. If not, do let me know. So, next sentence. So, here is the sentence here. So, studies have shown that subjects like PE, when people say PE, guys, they're just talking about physical education. Okay, so that's what they mean when they say PE, physical education. So, subjects like PE and music greatly improve brain function. Okay, okay, so again, let's remove the intensifier greatly. The meaning of the sentence is still the same, okay? Fundamentally, like the main part of it is the same. The difference is the word greatly intensifies the word improve. Okay, you might be thinking, well, what do I mean by intensifies? Well, as I said earlier, it can give additional meaning, so extra meaning, okay? It can make this improve. One way of I like to think about it is you see this word improve, right? This word is becoming stronger thanks to this word. So greatly is making the word improve stronger. Okay, it's adding some quality to it. Some might say it's making it bigger. It's not making it bigger like in size literally, but that's one way of thinking about it. So hopefully that can make you understand the function of intensifiers. And you're going to use intensifiers all the time in daily life. One of the most common ones you will hear in England is really and very. So I could say, that cake is very nice. Okay, so here, this is our intensifier. It is adding some quality to the word nice. Now, we could just say that cake is nice. But usually, when we want to emphasize a point, we want to make us, usually, we feel emotional about it sometimes. So we want to talk about it in more detail. Detail is a key word here. We want to add more detail. So we say very nice. It's not just nice. So that's what an intensifier is. That's a very short and basic example. And very and really, they are the most common ones, but what I want you guys to do is become more comfortable with words that are not as common. So we always used to respect our elders. Elders, when people say elders, they are referring to um, older people. So I suppose it's a polite way of, so elderly. When we say elderly people, we are basically saying old people, but the word elderly is a more respectful and a more polite way of saying it, okay? Because if you say old people, some might think that's a bit rude in some settings. Obviously, if you're with friends and you say that, it could be fine, but if you're with a stranger who might be, old, someone who, let's say you're with someone who is 80 years of age and you yourself are 30 or 35, and you call them an old person, or you refer to old people as old people, it could be offensive. To be more polite, you could say elderly, right? So we always used to respect our elders. If a teacher told me off, I was absolutely terrified. So the word terrified just means you were very, very scared. That's what terrified means, right? You were scared, very scared. And absolutely is adding an extra quality to this. It is making it seem even more terrified. So let's say someone is terrified 50%, okay? Now, if they're absolutely terrified, it is mean they are terrified, you could say 100%, okay? That's one way of looking at it. We could swap out the word terrified with scared. So, off. Um, okay, so told me off. It's not, the verb here is told. So told is the verb and me off. So one way of thinking about it is um, off is, I would have to like show a difference between of and of. So I'll quickly bring up a document highlighting that. So if you look here, of is a preposition that indicates relationships, and off is usually used as an adverb or a preposition. Okay, so by itself, you could say off can serve as an adverb or a preposition, but this is the key thing I want to make clear. So when I said told me off, so it means when someone tells you off, they mean they are disciplining you in a way. So let's say I went to a party and I was very noisy, and then my friend's mother came into the room and said, "There's too much noise here. Stop what you're doing." That's what it means when someone tells you off. They don't mean off in the literal um, sense. They mean it in a different sense. Sorry. Where was I? So no, it's not a verb. It's not a verb. The verb is told. Told is the verb here, and off is by itself. It wouldn't mean what I just said it meant, but in in that sentence, it means they are being disciplined. Okay, someone is you could say shouting at them. So let's say he shouted at them. So that could be the same thing as he told them off. Okay. Hopefully that clarifies told me off in that sentence. Okay, so next sentence. When I see what young people get up to nowadays, I'm utterly shocked. Okay, so um, before we look at this, I just want to say, when they say get up to here, they mean what people do. Okay, what they are doing. That's what they mean when they say get up to. So when I see what young people, you could just change get up to just what young people do nowadays, but we have get up to. So what young people get up to, when I see what young people get up to nowadays, I am utterly shocked. So shocked um, basically just means when you are very, very, um, it's very similar to surprised, okay? When you are surprised and you are shocked, but there is some difference. One way to think about a difference is um, shock is usually very severe, okay? So if I've had touch wood, if I had a heart attack, I would be shocked. It's like holy crap. Not only am I surprised, but it's it's a shock. I'm so surprised. But with surprised, it's more like, let's say you received a you voted for a politician, but somebody else won. So you could say, I was surprised that he won. Okay? Now, you were surprised, but you still considered the possibility that they might win. You thought there might be a chance, but you were still surprised that he won. But when you are shocked about something, it's usually very unexpected, okay? Being shocked is usually associated with unexpected. So if I had a heart attack, I would be very shocked about that. I would be surprised too, also. So that is one difference, small difference between the two words, shocked and surprised. Okay, so these sentences are quite small, so I'm going to enlarge them. Okay, so a boy I knew got caught committing a crime, and his mum was utterly devastated. So, devastated, um, this word here. Do you have any idea what this word means? Devastated. Have a guess. It's fine if you don't get the answer right, because we're here to learn. So, just what do you think it means? Devastated. Okay, so one way of thinking about devastated is they were, very sad, they were shocked, they were surprised. You're not so much surprised, but shocked. So when someone's usually devastated about something, they're very sad about it, they're shocked, sometimes they're angry. So it does depend on the context of the sentence, but you can think about it as very sad. That's one way to simplify it. Okay? Often when someone is devastated, they're also disappointed. So think of these words when you think of devastated. Next, we have it's becoming extremely difficult to keep your private life private. That's very true. These days, we have the internet and everything is over there. There's pictures, there's videos, your contact details, your name, your email, everything is there. So it's extremely difficult to keep your private life private. Now, extremely, again, is the intensifier here, and it is modifying the word difficult, but we can change extremely with very if we wanted to. We could change it with really. And as I said earlier, really is one of the most popular intensifiers in um, in England, in the UK. So as you can see here, really is modifying the word difficult. It's serving as a modifier, but really by itself would be different, we could say. Really. So in this case, it's not modifying anything, right? Because it's by itself. We are asking a question, confirmation. So in what context would I use this? Well, I'll give you an example. So let's say someone said to me, by the way, I just won £1,000. And then I could ask them, really? So it's like, wow, is that really true? Is what you're telling me, is that, are you being truthful here? Is this true? I am seeking further confirmation. I want them to confirm if it is true, or so then they can say, yes, I won it through the lottery. So what I'm highlighting here is really by itself is not serving as an intensifier. It's not doing that. It's only serving as an intensifier when it is next to another word, in this case, difficult. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so Now we have, nowadays, if a company doesn't have a website, it's virtually invisible to the public. So when they say invisible, it means people cannot see it. It is not advertised very well. So people cannot, if there's no website, you can't see it. It may as well not be there. Designer goods are an absolute rip-off. Rip-off, okay? When people say rip-off, they usually mean something is too expensive for what they are paying, okay? So um, let's say I went to the Apple store and I seen a phone which is what God knows, is like £1,000 or something. I could say um, the iPhone is very expensive, okay? But I could also say the iPhone is an absolute rip-off. Same thing. I am communicating the same idea with different words. That's what they mean when they say rip-off here. So absolute rip-off. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna come back to these later, but I'd just like you guys to try to fill in these blanks here. So we have the first sentence. It's a interesting story. What could we put inside here to serve as an intensifier? So remember, intensifiers are also adverbs, and remember what they do. What word can we put here? Think of any intensifiers. So remember, we've been through many intensifiers through these. The words in bold, focus on them. So what word do you think can go inside? Okay, so one example would be very. It's a very interesting story. Okay, so now we want to do the same thing for this sentence, but we're not going to use the word very. I want you guys to think of a different intensifier I could use. So we could say everyone was very excited, but I don't want to use that word again. I want to use a different word this time. So remember, I went through multiple intensifiers. So think of a word I can put inside here. Have a guess, doesn't have to be right. Yes, MG. That's a good answer, MG. Well done. Absolutely, yeah. Very, very good. Everyone was absolutely excited. Amazing. Fantastic. That's an amazing one. So the third one, what can we put for the third one? So we've used very, we've used absolutely. What could we put? What else could we put down? Remember, the clues are in here. So remember, we had absolutely, greatly, utterly. So you have to consider context as well. So it's a greatly interesting story. That sounds a bit weird. It not technically wrong, but it does not sound natural. Sometimes when we um, speak, we want it to sound natural. So um, have a guess. Really, yes. It's a really interesting story. Great. It's a really interesting story. Very good answer. Very good. Well done. Well done, MG. Okay, final one. Everyone was excited. So remember, we've used very, we've used absolutely, and we've used really. Now, we can use any of them in here, but we want to think of a new intensifier, okay? So everyone was blank excited. So I'll give you a new one, incredibly excited, okay? So I like this word. It's powerful, isn't it? Incredibly. Something's incredible. So everyone was incredibly excited. But remember guys, as I said, really and very, they are going to be some of the most common ones you will hear and ones you can use yourselves, but there are some less common ones. Yeah, well done, well done, well done. Okay, so here we have some more examples. So I firmly believe that I oops. I firmly believe that I should have won. Okay, so if I say that, um, so I believe I should have won. I could remove firmly, but let's put it back. Again, our example is there. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that. Then we can continue the sentence with that he won. I completely agree. So again, completely is modifying agree. We have another example of completely. I'm not completely sure about that. Yes, I'm not entirely convinced. Entirely. Entirely, so when we say entire, we are referring about the whole thing, okay? Everything. Entire, everything, okay? So everything, the whole thing. So I'm not entirely convinced. So we can change that if we want to I'm not completely convinced. I'm not entirely convinced. So you will notice that you can't change it. Well, you shouldn't change it for any word, because if I changed it to I'm not very convinced, um, that gives an entirely different picture. Not entirely different, but there is some difference, isn't there? Because a very by itself is, it's an intensifier, and I've explained the word very before, but if I talk about entire, I'm talking about the whole thing. There is a difference there. So just keep that difference in mind. So when you change your intensifiers, do think about the difference in words, because that can be very important. Okay, guys, we've been through everything today. Thank you very much for attending. Does anyone have any questions or um, concerns about what I've taught today, the intensifiers? If you have any more questions, I'm still here for another few minutes. I can answer your questions if you have any. Just gonna put the intensifiers in bold so you guys remember them. You are very welcome, MG. Thank you very much for attending. Apologies if I mispronounce the name, but um, I'm just going to say Kanka. Thank you very much for attending as well. Have a good weekend, guys, and hopefully see you next Friday. So next Friday, I will be doing a different session. There will also hopefully be a PowerPoint presentation. So it's going to be like this, but a different topic. So see you guys there. Bye.